Hey everyone, this is Kyle Lamont, the founder and host, with a quick update. ConcertCast and the production company Good to Go Studios are now part of Vemory, a platform dedicated to gig tripping and concert culture, made for fans who go the distance. You can learn more about Vemory at VEMORII.live. Here is where you can also subscribe to our new talk show. It's called Concert Chat, and it's the only video podcast reviewing music venues and the performance immediately after the encore, all from a car parked outside the venue. It's a ticket holder tell-all. But now, for the origins of Vemory, ConcertCast, the only immersive travel podcast recorded from on the road and inside the music venue. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you out there.
I'm Kyle Lamont, host of ConcertCast, a podcast about road tripping to America's best music venues. And one of the hardest things about producing each episode is the editing. The solution? Minicasts. Bite-sized morsels for your ears. Conversations that didn't make the full-length episode. Our first minicast is with Jon Fishman, the drummer of Phish, who I had the supreme privilege of hanging out with after his radio show in Belfast, Maine. Life on the road can be noisy, stressful, and loud. It makes total sense on why Fishman would want to go to the woods and turn all that down.
I remember these interviews with Michael Jordan in the 90s where they say, I love to play games at Madison Square Garden because, when the crowd gets really worked up, they start stomping the floor. I actually get more height. I can actually time it and get more height out of my jumps because the floor moves. I didn't know what he meant until we actually played there. And we were playing the song Axilla, which just goes, and it's just this four on the floor, boom, boom, boom. And it's a kind of thing, it's like a little bit of a headbanger tune. And I think people in the room kind of got, all in the same beat. And I felt it. The whole stage, my whole drum set and everything under us just started going woof, woof, like this, undulating. And that was really cool. And I thought, all right. This is amazing. I guess if I really had to talk about favorite venue, I think I do still prefer, as much as I love Madison Square Garden and the big stages and all that, it's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. And the festivals and everything, I really do kind of like the little rooms. I do, I like going in little clubs and like that VFW hall thing, that is as fun a place to play as any place, really. But in some ways, kind of more fun because it's just, you're not likely to be there again or maybe very often. And those littler rooms.
Little rooms that are more likely found in rural, quiet towns. And how would you describe Maine's soundscape, in terms of the natural noises that you hear? You've traveled all over the country. How would you say Maine's natural noises really maybe affect your music or help inspire your music or enrich?
Well, to be honest, it's funny, but that goes back to silence. So in 2004, Phish kind of ran itself into the ditch, and from 04 to 09, we were not a band, right? And that was when my wife and I decided we were going to look for a place to raise our kids and just farm and kind of homestead. And it was like a little bit of a back to the land effort on our part. Hold on. I have a quote. Here, I'll read you the quote. And this is the quote that basically guided my idea of where do we want to live? And this is going to answer your question about Maine soundscape. Let me find my little quotes here.
He scrolls through his phone.
Oh, quotes. There we go. All right. And, okay. I don't know who wrote this quote. Maybe somebody can tell you. Soon silence will have passed into legend. Man has turned his back on silence. Day after day, he invents machines and devices that increase noise and distract humanity from the essence of life, contemplation, meditation. Tooting, howling, screeching, booming, crashing, whistling, grinding, and trilling bolster his ego. His anxiety subsides. His inhuman void spreads monstrously like a gray vegetation. So I was like, I got to find someplace that's quiet, you know? And I remember driving up the driveway where we live now and getting out of the car and hearing nothing. Like hearing no cars or like in the way distance, I could kind of hear like a logging truck, maybe on the back Belfast Road, like, but real distant, you know. But there was no consistent hum or anything like that. Yeah, every once in a while, someone decides to cut down a bunch of trees, and you hear some chainsaws for a few days and stuff. But generally speaking, you know, and what was interesting about it, it was like, wow, I'm not that far from civilization. You know, we're not near Portland or Augusta, or, you know, we're not near a big city necessarily, but the coast is like a lot of culture going on here.
Fishman and his wife found Lincolnville, Maine, a small coastal town right on Route 1.
So I called my wife and said, hey, you should maybe come up and look at this place. And that's where we ended up buying in Lincolnville. And I still get out of the car, and it's still the same relief that it was. Like on some nights sometimes you could hear stuff, but like some nights you get out and it's just like, all I can hear is the ring in my ears, you know, and that's as close to silence as I get now. So for me, that association, like Maine, when I think of the soundscape of Maine, it's like, some people call it the Alaska of the lower 48 or whatever, but it's a place where you can get peace and quiet, and the sounds of nature are still really present.
Silence for them is a sound.
I have a question. So when you're like in a road trip situation and you guys have talked enough and you've talked about the set, or maybe you've talked about what you're going to play, or you've gone through all the talking, you guys have come to a point where you're comfortable in silence. What is that like, being a big band together and driving together in silence?
It's pretty great. I mean, we don't all live in the same house anymore and see each other as much. We get together, we have practice sessions, we have recording sessions, but mostly when we get together, we're working on new material. Everyone's kind of responsible for sort of knowing the old things, and then we do go over rough spots sometimes in old material, but usually there are conversations, because when we get together, there are things to catch up on. There's either new things to do or things we've all been meaning to catch up on, you know, like, well, when we get together, we'll talk about, we'll figure this thing out or that thing out.
But you guys are just comfortable being silent, though, together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really comfortable that way. I think we got training for that on the road, though, because there are a lot of, you know, comfortably silent hours and hours and hours driving, you know, on the road.
I just love the
over.
concept how you guys are just this huge mega band, and just to think that you all can be silent together is pretty special. I think just the essence of silence on a road trip is sound in itself.
Well, you learn that a lot in music, though, too. You know, the hardest
space
thing
in
to do
between.
in music is play really slow and really sparsely, and still have people on the edge of their seat, like a real slow ballad duet. There's one of my favorite series of records is Joe Pass and Ella Fitzgerald. Joe Pass is a guitar player, and it's just like guitar accompaniment with vocals, and there's more space on those records than sound, and it's pretty incredible. It keeps you riveted.
And that completes my mini cast with Jon Fishman. As I reflect on our time together, I'm mostly in awe of how little distraction there was. Outside of the studio caller, which you have to listen to the full-length interview for that moment, sitting with Fishman for close to 90 minutes without interruption from anyone was spellbinding. In the quiet comfort of a radio studio, we simply had a great conversation. It wasn't until my friend Eric Klossmeyer, who produces Fishman's show, had to cut us off. And yes, the spell was broken. But thankfully, I pushed the record button. Subscribe to ConcertCast the podcast on your podcast app of choice to listen to our full-length episode, where Fishman and I talk about his favorite music venues.
There's this place, Blossom in Ohio, it's like you're on the inside of an upside-down ship. The shell inside is this wooden, you know, it looks like the inside of a wooden hull of a ship.
And we even have a late-night studio caller.
WBFY. Oh, I guess I got to answer it first, not WBFY.
Subscribe to ConcertCast on your podcast app of choice and type in ConcertCast.live to build your own music-centric itinerary and to learn how you can be part of the show. And find us on Spotify to download a Maine music playlist. This has been a Good To Go Studios production made in Maine, and Mark Tuckashen is our resident mastermind. Special thanks to Jon Fishman, 100.9 WBFY Belfast Community Radio Station, Eric Klossmeyer, Chris Katsaris, and thank you for listening.